Come in, all who long to know how to love this world, how to keep eyes open, hands unclenched, arms wide, breathing deeply in and out. This is a time to practice because there is still so much good and beauty and joy, but it can be hard to keep telling this tale with all the news and the wind and the rain and the trembling earth. Come in, all who teeter on this edge of cynicism, brokenhearted and trying still to remember laughter and kindness and the chance to be alive in these days when so much is at stake. In this place, we remind each other why we persist, giving each other courage to take this path. It's not always easy to keep practicing this love that cannot, will not let us go. And still, it calls us on. Come, let us worship together. Those words by the Reverend Gretchen Haley. I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in singing number 39 in the gray hymnal, The Morning Hangs a Signal, and then remain standing as you feel able for the chalice lighting and the doxology. Oh, thank you. I'm so glad you yelled at us. Would our chalice lighters come forward, please, to ignite the flame and lead us in the responsive words that are printed in your order of service. Christine and Earl.
Let this flame be to us a symbol of the wholeness we seek.
Its brightness dispelling gloom, lighting a path to faith and hope.
Its glow reminding us of the sacred bonds that link us to all living things.
Its radiance calling us to cast the light of freedom, justice, and peace upon all the world. Please be seated. Good morning and welcome. I'm the Reverend Susan Milner. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and it is my honor to serve as interim minister to this historic and vital congregation. We gratefully acknowledge the Patuxet Wampanoag people on whose ancestral lands we gather today. We commit to support and to honor their history and culture. We welcome warmly all of you, members and friends, guests, newcomers today, including, of course, those of you who are joining us online. We are very glad you're here too. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, whatever your age, your gender, your ability, for this 1 hour, we want you to feel like you belong to this congregation, and we want you to be very welcome. All of you who are here in the building are invited to coffee hour following the service in the assembly hall through these doors, this door, through the parlor and down in that wing of the building. If you're visiting today and you take a red mug at coffee hour, we can offer you a warm First Parish greeting. I have one announcement, and that is that to remind you that the Climate Action Change meeting will take place today in the chapel downstairs from 11:30 until 12:30. And while this is not an announcement, I want to just encourage you. During the service, if you see anything like burning or candles exploding or I have the wrong hand, please make it known. I found out only after the service last week that a candle everybody was watching I can't see the candle. So I welcome reality intruding into the worship service. If somebody gets us started on Go Now in Peace, or we'll let our children go downstairs. I think they're going to be decorating Easter eggs today. With my typical keen memory, I forgot to mention that next Sunday, Easter Sunday, we will be doing a tradition for this church, which is an egg tree, a bare branch tree with decorated eggs on it. And I think there may be an opportunity to decorate eggs after the service today, but in any case, any lightweight egg, if you want to decorate it and bring it to hang on the tree to represent what you hope to see reborn or come to life in the coming year. I want to invite you into a spirit of prayer and attention. This piece is by John O'Donoghue, and it's called, I won't get the Irish, but the Banach, or blessing. I just love this. On the day when the weight deadens on your shoulders and you stumble, may the clay dance to balance you. And when your eyes freeze behind the gray window and the ghost of loss gets into you, may a flock of colors, indigo, red, green, and azure blue, come to awaken you in a meadow of delight. When the canvas frays in the caracca of thought and a stain of ocean blackens beneath you, may there come across the waters a path of yellow moonlight to bring you safely home. May the nourishment of the earth be yours. May the clarity of the light be yours. May the fluency of the ocean be yours. May the protection of the ancestors be yours. And so may a slow wind work these words of love around you, an invisible cloak to mind your life. And in that spirit of peace and comfort, let us enter into a moment of sacred silence. May our hopes and dreams take flight on the wings of love. Amen. Blessed be. Once a month, this congregation shares its plate with an organization doing important work to make the world a better place, and this is that morning for April, when the recipient is the South Shore Community Action Council, thank you, forgot a word. And Ian Campbell is going to introduce our speaker, who's going to tell us just a little bit about this important work.
Good morning. Hi, Nikki. My name is Ian Campbell. For the last 2 years, I've been volunteering for a Meal Kit Monday, which is a program that SSCIC has been running. It's a wonderful program, and I was really moved by the generosity and the spirit there, so I was compelled to nominate them for Share the Plate, and I'm hoping you will give generously. And this is Nikki Galaboy, who's the Director of Planning and Development. Take it away.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Great. Oh, a little bit higher. Very good. Thank you. Appreciate that. And so if my hair catches fire, do let me know. That would be good to know. One of those things. So yes, I'm the Director of Planning and Development at South Shore Community Action Council. It's a mouthful to say for sure. We're a nonprofit community action agency in Plymouth, founded in 1965. We were one of over 1,000 across the country and one of more than 20 in Massachusetts, founded as part of President Johnson's War on Poverty. And our mission is to eliminate poverty on the South Shore. We do that by partnering with organizations and community groups and individuals of like mind and spirit who want to help empower individuals and families in our communities so that they can realize their full potential, live with dignity, and really participate in everything that our communities have to offer. We have our main office in Plymouth. However, our service area runs from Hull all the way down to Plymouth. For some of our programs, we actually go as far out as Provincetown, Martha's Vineyard in Nantucket. And with our transportation program, we extend all the way over to the Rhode Island border. So we actually have a really large footprint, even though our core services are offered in the South Shore region. We are a multi-service organization. We try to have services that are responsive to the needs of folks in our communities. And we help low-income people across the lifespan, from babies right on up to grandmas. As Ian mentioned, we have our food resources program. That's one of our largest. And it is almost entirely driven by the community, which is really a beautiful example of everything that community action can do. In that the food that we collect and that we distribute out into the community largely comes from the community. It is nearly entirely privately funded, so its operations are almost entirely with volunteers. And so it really is just the best example of what community action is all about and what it can accomplish. And in fact, what we're able to do is collect over 400,000 pounds of fresh and non-perishable food every single year and get it out into the community through a network of more than 60 pantries, soup kitchens, councils on aging, schools, you name it, organizations that are helping to feed people in our communities. We supply them with food, and then we also do some direct distribution through our mobile pantry, our Meal Kit Monday, and some bagged food distribution to councils on aging and our Head Start centers. So in total, we end up feeding about 10,000 people per year, and that's just one great example of what we can accomplish when we all work together. Some of our other large programs that I know I'm sort of on the clock here. Some of our other large programs include home heating assistance and utility assistance and energy conservation, with utility bills through the roof right now. These are really vital services to help keep people and families warm and safe. We have a transportation program that provides door-to-door transportation for older adults and people with disabilities to get health care. We have our Head Start centers, so we're taking care of babies right on up to 5-year-old kiddos with comprehensive early education and care, developmental screening, health screening, vision screening, mental health and social and emotional development and curriculum. It's really a comprehensive model that we use. It's really wrapping around the whole child, wrapping around the whole family. I could go on and on. But what I do want to say is what's wonderful about community action is that it is a vehicle for folks to get involved, to take their passions and the things that are most important to them and put them into action in community with other people. And so as a result of that, we have nearly 700 volunteers that help us throughout our organization every single year with more than 11,000 hours of volunteer service. We have nearly 700 community organizations and entities that we partner with, and some of our volunteers are actually here with us today, including Ian. We also have Pam Blades, who was a former member of our board of directors, which is an all-volunteer board. And then we have currently Bob Hughes in the back. Hey, Bob. Who is a current board member. And it's an all-volunteer board, and these are people who really care and give their time, as all of our volunteers do. And we're just so grateful for their partnership, for your partnership, and for this opportunity to talk with you about what we do, and for everything that you're doing to help us make the difference that we want to make in the world and in our communities. And I'll be at the coffee hour afterwards. So if you have any other questions or just want to chat, I'd be happy to talk with you. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Nikki, and we're delighted to have you here. So please share as generously as you can. The morning offering will now be gratefully received. Our theme this month is joy, and I have two short readings today. The first one we actually used last week as well, and it is worth repeating because it suits both last week's focus and this week's equally well. Today we're thinking about joy as a source of resistance, and it's Don't Hesitate by Mary Oliver. If you suddenly and unexpectedly feel joy, don't hesitate. Give in to it. There are plenty of lives and whole towns destroyed or about to be. We are not wise and not often kind, and much can never be redeemed. Still, life has some possibility left. Perhaps this is its way of fighting back, that sometimes something happens better than all the riches or power in the world. It could be anything, but you very likely notice it in the instant when love begins. Anyway, that's often the case. And whatever it is, don't be afraid of its plenty. Joy is not made to be a crumb. And the second is just a quote from Marginalia by the writer and commentator Maria Popova. In this world heavy with robust reasons for despair, joy is a stubborn courage we must not surrender, a fulcrum of personal power we must not yield to cynicism, blame, or any other costume of helplessness. Experience of conflict and a load of suffering has taught me that what matters above all is to celebrate joy. René Magritte, the artist, wrote just after living through the Second World War of his lifetime. Life, he said, is wasted when we make it more terrifying. Just what we needed today. In Poland in 1982, when the anti-authoritarian movement Solidarity that we know so much about, was banned, the citizens grew really fed up with the lies that they were being told on evening newscasts. So they decided to lean on a bit of humor. Every evening, the residents of Swidnik in eastern Poland went on a walkabout. As the evening news came on, the streets would fill. People chatted, they walked, they hung out. In a show of resistance, they put their televisions in the windows and turned them off. Or even better, they put the TV sets into strollers or wheelbarrows and took them on the walk. You gotta love it. Predictably, this made the government rulers furious, so they set the curfew earlier. People responded by taking their walks earlier. And then, during the evening broadcast, they would switch the lights in all their apartments, off and on, off and on, off and on at a certain point in the program. One Polish citizen said, "You can't imagine the feeling of elation." Humor isn't exactly the same as joy, but it sure can provide access to it. And because joy is such a powerful source of courage and determination, it makes authoritarians very nervous. According to Michael Zantowski, under both Hitler and Stalin, humor was driven underground. Dictators fear laughter more than bombs, he quoted someone as saying. What humor can do is mock policies and people in a way that's hard to pin down and hard to punish. Right now, we need humor and joy to replenish us when it takes so much energy, so much digging into our emotional and psychic reserves to maintain balance. Humor is a tonic, or at least it is for me. One of my favorite resources is the satiric Borowitz report. Do any of you read it? The headlines are enough to convey the idea. Americans traveling to Europe attempt Canadian accents. Trump threatening to deport chickens unless they lower the price of eggs. Furious Musk demands refund in Wisconsin. Bondi fires DOJ employee after finding a copy of the Constitution on his desk. And finally, Trump says Musk has found huge fraud in Oval Office. Silly headlines, yes, but as is so often the case with humor, they carry a world of hurt underneath, and they make a point. What's so powerful about satire in particular is that it provides the space and the perspective to resist being overwhelmed by feelings of negativity and despair. If you can laugh at something, you can imagine being free of it. You can imagine being free of it. Humor and satire have been employed as resistance for a very long time. In the year 2000, Peru was laboring under the corrupt, brutal government of Alberto Fujimori, who deemed all of those who criticized him as terrorists. And repeatedly, he just kept saying, "All I want is a clean country." So deliberately, taking his words literally, every Friday from noon to 3 p.m., thousands of people gathered on the Plaza Mayor in the capital of Lima with soap and water to wash the red and white flag of Peru. Their message, which never had to be said, was that their country had become badly soiled. It was street theater on a grand scale. There's no better day on which to consider that kind of street theater, at least in the Western world, than on Palm Sunday, which today is. If you remember, this was the day during Passover over 2,000 years ago when Caesar rode into Jerusalem by the west gate astride a grand horse flanked by hundreds or thousands of armed military guards. It was a show of might meant to remind the oppressed Jewish people gathered for the festival who was boss. These people were living on bare resources while the product of their labor flowed into the coffers of Caesar and the very wealthy. But across town, at the East Gate, another well-known man rode into town on a donkey, which for some reason is considered a humble animal. The teacher and healer, Jesus, who would be arrested and killed before the week was out as a traitor. But what a pie in the face that entry was. Just as the Romans were attempting to squelch the joy and courage that people might find in their annual festival of Passover and coming together, the teacher put it front and center. It was a challenge to empire and a nod to a power deeper than any government, embodied in love. But it was also a day of joy. The peasants who were inspired by Jesus' message ran ahead of him, laying palms in his path, cheering him on, showing the elation they would never feel for the emperor. How many days do you ask yourself the same thing those Jewish peasants or Polish activists or Peruvians ask themselves? How can we absorb bad news after bad news and still have hope? Where will our courage to change things come from? And one answer is to insist on joy, to embrace a power that no one can legislate away. Again, writer Maria Popova says, in this world heavy with robust reasons for despair, joy is a stubborn courage we must not surrender. A fulcrum of personal power we must not yield to cynicism, blame, or any other costume of helplessness. I love that phrase, costume of helplessness, for we are not helpless as long as we can be renewed in our bodies and our spirits by joy. Joy is a sign of life, of thriving. It's one of the things that makes us human, and experiencing it reminds us of that humanity when social forces would try to dehumanize us. Elie Wiesel remembered a fellow prisoner in Auschwitz trading his small ration of bread for some materials from which he could create a rough menorah during Hanukkah. Finding it hard to believe that the man would give up something so necessary to life as his bread, Wiesel asked him, "Hanukkah in Auschwitz?" And the man replied, "Especially in Auschwitz." In World War I, that horrible trench war, soldiers on both sides of the conflict cultivated gardens in the trenches. In 1915, a German soldier told of a trench in which howitzer cartridge cases were being used as pots to hold snowdrops. You know, those white flower snowdrops. And other soldiers wrote home requesting seeds. Like thirsty souls in a desert hunting for water, we seek joy to survive and to overcome all the circumstances that tempt us to bend to intimidation or succumb to cynicism. But joy says, no one will take over my mind and my soul. No one can inhabit it. Joy reminds us of a better world and lets us imagine it for the future. It grants us a stubborn courage. As individuals, we need joy to sustain us and lift us and restore us. And today, I say to you, take joy and take all the related experiences whenever you can get them. Take a simple pleasure like a food that you enjoy. Think about that word, enjoy. Enjoy. When I taste a really good caramel, I am dwelling in joy, I can tell you. Take humor and laughter where you can get it. For the past couple of weeks, when the news becomes overwhelming, I switch on old episodes of a British game show in which two teams tell stories that are truth or lies, and the other team tries to figure out which they are. The lies are sometimes outrageously funny, and the true stories often are too. But the joy for me comes from these civilized people telling lies, then admitting that they're telling lies, laughing at themselves, and revealing that underneath the game of it all is trust that they will be silly and witty, but not unkind. That just sort of takes my breath away these days. Take joy in meals together. Thank you, Liz Connors, for starting up those potlucks. Meals together are the oldest means of building human resilience. Tell stories together, look at stars together, walk through the woods together, be human together, and don't feel guilty about it. Unless you can survive spiritually, you can't do anything to help the world. You must have joy. And finally, the other thing you can do is to sing together. Did you know that studies have shown that when people sing or dance together, we become connected on a physical level? The heart rate of choir members synchronize. The brain waves of musicians playing together line up. Studies show that when strangers either move together or vocalize together, they become more generous and readier to sacrifice their own needs for the good of the group. You know, people can appreciate beautiful music played splendidly, but the reason we want to sing together in church, on the picket line, in peaceful protest is that it connects us to each other and gives us the stubborn courage that we need. As Black people in this country have known for centuries and manifest in various movements for freedom or civil rights, singing can be the heart of joyful resistance. Together, people can even change the world with joy. The history of the nation of Estonia, which was occupied by different forces for centuries, it's complicated. But one thing's been the same, and that is the love the people in Estonia have for singing. In 1947, when they were still under the repressive regime of the Soviets, one choir master had the stubborn courage to lead singers in the unofficial national anthem, which was banned. And then in 1988, when the USSR was weakened, activists drew on the historic love of song to encourage people to demand independence. 300,000 people, some wearing traditional folk dress made by their grandmothers, gathered on the Song Festival grounds near Tallinn and sang patriotic songs. The next year, 1 million people from Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia held hands to create a human chain stretching 400 miles to Tallinn in the singing. And Estonians just kept singing. The singing continued over 5 years and is known as the Singing Revolution. In 1991, they openly demanded independence and eventually won it. Think about it. Through tapping their joy together, 1 million Estonians prevailed over 150 million Russian occupiers. Joy is a stubborn courage we must not surrender. Let us make room to eat and to play and to sing together so that we can create the world for which we long. And on that note, I'm going to invite the soul singers to lead us in a hymn I experience is very joyful. It's number 1007 in the teal blue book. There's a river flowing in my soul. To extinguish the flame and join me, or anybody extinguish it, it's fine. Join me in the words for that. They are printed in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Go forward into the days ahead. Laugh when you can, weep when you must, and open your hearts to the joy that will grant you the stubborn courage to join with others to remake the world again. Amen. Let's pray.